Good morning. How many of you listened to the presidential debate last night? Oh my goodness, a 3-hour-long debate. We have been trying to encourage our children to understand more about politics and to be more involved in just understanding how the process works and issues and all of that. So we wanted to watch it with them. And I had no idea it was going to be 3 hours long. Hi, Mackenzie. Welcome. So, yes, that was, it was a late night. But anyway, we are going to talk about how to eliminate 99% of your paper piles today. Does anyone have a paper pile problem? That's what we're going to be addressing today. Righty. You finally made it live, Jen. Yay! Okay, so if you are new to my scope, my name is Crystal Payne. I am the founder of MoneySavingMom.com, as well as the New York Times bestselling author of Say Goodbye to Survival Mode, and the creator of the 14-day online course that is at MakeOverYourMornings.com. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page at MakeOverYourMornings.com, you can sign up for a free day, so you can get the first day for free. If you need help with getting your mornings in order, if you feel like your life is just spinning out of control, I encourage you to go check out MakeOverYourMornings.com. I'm also married to Jesse. We've been married for 12.5 years, and we have 3 kids. Catherine is 10, Caitlin is 8, and Silas is 6. And we live in the Nashville, Tennessee area, and we homeschool. My husband homeschools in the afternoon. I homeschool in the morning because we're both self-employed entrepreneurs. So that's a little bit about me. If you are new here today, I would love to give you a little shout out. If you can type in the comment box and say, I'm new with your name, I'd love to shout out to you. And also, those of you who have been on my scopes before, you know that I always go back and follow Terp. Hi, what's your name? You need to say I'm new and let me know your name. Natasha, welcome. April, welcome. Oh, Nick, welcome. We're glad to have you. Ray, Roxy. Yeah, I thought your handle looked new. Angie, welcome. You're having a book club reading Tuesday morning. Trish, welcome. Tammy, welcome. Sue, welcome. Holly, Steph. Wow. Oh, Steph, it's so fun to see. I was with Megan yesterday, and we were talking about you, how wonderful you were. Grace, Anna, Mackenzie, I'm so glad you got to be here, but I'm so sorry that you have sick kids. You poor thing. You've had quite the time. Okay. So let's talk about paper piles. Who's ready to dive into this? I'm going to give you 3 very specific systems or ways that help me, and then some practical ways to apply this. So thank you, Tabitha. I am feeling a lot better. We actually figured out that one of the medications that I was on for the infection was making me really sick. And so it was really good for us to figure out that that was making me super sick and tired. So anyway, I am on the way to Indianapolis today to speak at the MomCon, the MOPS International Conference tomorrow, and I'm really excited that I am well enough to do that. So let's talk about paper piles. Okay, so one of my friends came to my house recently. She comes to my house often, and she was like, how do you not have paper piles at your house? And she's like, what is your system? And I was like, my system? I don't have a system. I'm not good with systems. But then the more I thought about it, the more I realized I do have systems. I just didn't know that they were systems because I never intentionally, I guess, set it up and said, I'm going to get my paper piles in order and I'm going to set up the system. But I have systems that work so that we have very few paper piles in our house. 99% of our paper piles do not exist because we have systems for them. So number 1 is to find out where the paper is coming from. Where is the paper coming from? Are they school papers that your kids are bringing home? Is it junk mail? Is it magazines? Where are these papers coming from? What is it coming from? Find the source, because until you identify the source, you can't come up with a solution. So see if there's anything that you can do to cut down on that. For instance, so if it's mail, you could cancel some of your subscriptions. There are places online that you can sign up to cancel getting any junk mail. You cannot give out your home address or whatever address your mail comes to. Think about what is the source. So number one, find out where the paper is coming from. If something is coming into your home and it's just piling up and it's a subscription that you're paying for, you need to cancel it, because that is just creating a problem and it's helping you in no way. So find out where the paper is coming from. 2, stop hanging on to anything you don't absolutely need. So many people feel like you have to hang on to everything, that you have to keep all the papers and keep all the receipts, and what if I lose this? I'm not going to know this. Well, think about it. How much of those things are you actually going back and reading or using? For instance, your receipts. Do you need to hang on to the receipts? Could you scan them in and have them on a file on your computer? My husband has a scanner right next to his desk that's connected to his computer, and he scans almost all of this. This eliminates the majority of our paper piles. We've identified the sources where they were coming from and cut those off, but then the papers that come in, we scan the majority of them. So stop hanging on to anything you don't absolutely need. So can you scan it if you feel like you might need it? Or maybe you just need to trash it because it's not something that you're really going to need. So scan it or trash it, or maybe you do need it and so you need the original copy and you can file it. But don't just let it pile up. You need to stop hanging on to anything you don't absolutely need. A question that I like to ask is, if all my paper piles were burned up in a fire tomorrow, what would I desperately wish that I had saved? If all my paper piles were burned up in a fire tomorrow, what would I desperately wish I had saved? Probably very few of them. So only save the very meaningful ones, the ones that, for instance, for me, I save cards that are really meaningful, cards and letters that are really meaningful. I have a tub that I put those in because I always think, if this person were to die, would I wish that I had held on to this really meaningful card? If it's a card where they just sign their name, it's probably not something worth hanging on to. But if it's something that it really has a lot of meaning, you can either take a picture of it and keep it somewhere. You can either scan it and keep it in a file, or you can keep it in a tub of some sort. But only the really meaningful things. Get rid of the rest. And then 3, implement the touch it once policy. So if you'll stop to really pay attention, I bet that you spend a lot of time moving paper piles around. This is why I'm such a fan of the touch it once policy. This kind of plays into when we talked about emails and I talked about deal with it immediately. It's the same thing with paper piles. So for instance, when the mail comes in to our house, I go through it immediately and I throw out almost everything, because most of the stuff that's in the mail does not need to be kept. So I throw out almost everything, so then it doesn't even have a chance to become a pile. I rarely touch a paper that comes into our house more than once. I don't want to spend hours of my life moving papers from place to place to place. I have more important things to do with my time. So touch it once. That is my policy. So I'm going to give you some specific examples of how it works for me. So when a piece of paper comes into our house, be it bills, kids' papers from their activities, a magazine, an invitation, there are 4 things that will happen to it when I have it in my hand. I either trash it, scan it and then trash it, display it, or file it. So here's some specific examples. Ads, if ads come into the door, they are pretty much trashed immediately. You can find almost all ads online, either on the website of that store or on an app. There are apps that have all the ads from your local stores on the apps. You do not need to hang on to apps. I might glance through them and jot a note in my Google Calendar about a sale or something, but then trash it immediately or stick it in the recycling bin. Kids' artwork. I either display artwork on the fridge, and I rotate these displays regularly, so when I take one down to rotate in another, I'll take a picture of it if it's something that I want to keep, and then I toss it. You cannot keep your kids' artwork forever. When you have 3 kids who like to make a lot of artwork, you just can't hang on to it forever. So taking a picture is one way that I will keep a reminder of it. If it's something really special, it goes into my tub, but otherwise I display it for a little while and then I toss it. You can mail it to grandparents or to, we sponsor children through Compassion International. We will send them my kids' artwork sometimes, or just take a picture of it on my phone. Sometimes I'll even put it on Instagram. I have a few things that I've put on Instagram that were really special notes that my kids have written to me. Or one was this book that my daughter put together that I wanted to have a record of. So I keep very few of the kids' artwork. Bills, pay them immediately if you can, and then scan and shred. Or if possible, switch to online bill pay. We have almost all of our bills set up through online bill pay so that we don't even have to mess with the bills coming in. Invitations and notices and FYIs. These are a lot of things that will come in. It's an invitation or it's a notice where it's like, you know, somebody's getting married, your child, you need to remember to bring treats, your child has a field trip, it's something about soccer. These are a lot of the papers that come in, and my kids are homeschooled, so we don't have the school papers, but from what I've seen from families where your kids are in school, there are a lot of papers that come home with your kids. And so one of the things that I would encourage you to do is, if you need to save the invitation, you want to save it, it's something really beautiful, then put it on your fridge and put it kind of in your rotating display, and then when you put something else up there, take it down and toss it. But then also, I said, in this article, I said more than a few on display, and you've sort of created a display pile. So you don't want to have your fridge covered in displays, otherwise you've created a pile. But most of the time, I will just take that paper, that invitation, that information, and I will put it right on my Google Calendar. I put all the information in my Google Calendar in the notes section on that, you know, where it says so-and-so's wedding, and I will put in the notes section where they're registered, where the wedding is, all the details that I need to know. So that's on my calendar. And then if it's something like, oh yes, I need to remember to get them a gift, then I will go on my calendar, and like 2 weeks before the wedding, I'll put a note on my Google Calendar to remind myself to buy a gift for them and to say where they're registered. So I put all that information in Google Calendar so then I don't need to keep that invitation or that paper with that information. I can toss it because I've collected all the information I need to know. I've put it in an organized place. I have a system for it, so I know that I'm not going to lose that information, and then I can toss the paper. If you feel like you want to, for some reason, you know, you just feel like there's a lot of information in there, you can also take a picture of it. We talked about Boomerang for your email system, and I have taken pictures of things and then emailed it to myself and then had it boomeranged to come back to me in 3 weeks when I need to remember all the details on that paper. Or for instance, sometimes I'll write on a scrap of paper, I'll have an idea for a blog post that I want to write or something that I want to write. I will literally write it all down on the scrap of paper if I'm not at my computer, and then I'll take a picture of that, I'll email it to myself, and then I can boomerang it to come back in when I want to be reminded of it. So those are some ways. Oh, and then cards and letters. I don't keep very many of these. I already talked about how I have the tub where I put the very, very, very most important, most special ones. I'll ask myself, will I wish I had this in 25 years from now? And if the answer is yes, then it goes in that keepsakes tub. If the answer is no, then I might display it for a little while and then I will get rid of it. So these are the systems that have worked really well for me to eliminate 99% of the paper piles at our house. If you have a paper pile problem, what I would encourage you to do is to start with saying, I'm going to implement the touch it once policy for the next 2 weeks. I'm not even going to mess with the papers that I already have, that, you know, there are already all these piles that I already have to deal with. I'm just going to implement the touch it once policy, because then you have eliminated more piles from happening. So start with implementing the touch it once policy, and then once you have implemented that, then say, okay, I'm going to take an afternoon and I'm literally going to go through all of this area of my house that has all these papers, and I'm going to do something with them and get rid of them. But you've already established the habit then when more papers come in, they're not going to pile up. So establish the habit first and then get rid of all your papers. Because if you spend 2 days and you get rid of all the papers in your house, but you don't have a good system in place for the the extra papers that are going to start coming back in, then you are just fighting a losing battle. So implement the habit first and then work on the papers that you already have in your house. My husband, I encouraged him to do this when we moved to Nashville, and he brought his office home because he used to have his own law firm and he had law offices that weren't at our home. And so when he brought all his law office stuff home, I remember that the first few weeks I was like, you have paper piles everywhere. And I said, could I just encourage you to try this? And so I taught him about the touch it once policy. And at first he was like, this is not going to work. You know, this is so much work. And within a few weeks, he said, that was the best thing ever. I feel so much more productive. I'm getting so much more done. And I'm spending so much less time on papers. So just try it. And if it is a horrible disaster for you and it, just makes your life miserable, then you can go back to whatever you were doing. But I encourage you to try it if you feel completely overwhelmed with papers. So I'd love to hear from you. I know some people are giving some great suggestions in the comments. If you have other comments, things that work for you, tell us in the comments. I'd love to learn from you. I always go back and I watch the replay so I can read all of your sweet comments and your wise information because I'm learning so much from you. I also was going to mention that on MoneySavingMom.com/scope, so MoneySavingMom.com/scope, I have a link to this article that I wrote that these tips came from, where I go in a little bit more in depth. So if you say, I didn't catch some of that, or I want to review that, what does the Touch It Once policy look like in their home? Go to MoneySavingMom.com/scope, and there's the link to the article. Okay, I have a few announcements that I wanted to share. You guys, oh my goodness. So many people yesterday, after someone asked for a hair tutorial, and I said that I would be more than happy to send you the link to the YouTube video that someone did that shares how I did my hair. Oh my goodness, guys, so many of you asked for that link. And then people started asking for makeup. They wanted to know what foundation I use, what eyeshadow I use, all these different things. It's so funny to me because I feel like I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I just experiment and then I think, oh, that looks good. And so then I just do it. But so many of you are interested in this, and I thought, I got to help a girl out. So tomorrow on my scope, I'm going to go through my makeup bag with you, and I will show you some of the different things that I use. And I'm also going to maybe attempt to do a little bit of a hair tutorial. I might leave the curling iron cold because I have a feeling that if I have it warm, I'll probably burn my hair off before I go to speak at MomCon, and that would not be very good. If you have seen the YouTube video of the girl who's doing the hair tutorial and then she burns this big piece of her hair off, that would totally be me. So tomorrow, Friday, around 7:30 a.m., which also announcement, if you missed yesterday at the end of my scope, I talked about how I'm going to change the time to 7:30 a.m. Central Time because that just works a little bit better for me consistently. That I feel like I want to not have such a big window of time so you don't know when I'm going to be jumping on. So 7:30, right around 7:30, I can pretty well consistently do that almost every single day, hopefully. So I'm moving it to 7:30 so that I can be more consistent for you. I also wanted to mention that if you have a suggestion for a show topic that you would really love for me to cover, if you could tweet at me, it is twitter.com/MoneySavingMom. You can tweet at me or email me, crystal@moneysavingmom.com, or you can contact me through the contact form on my site. That's at moneysavingmom.com, the contact form. And you could if you have a suggestion, send it in because I'd love to know what you would like to hear me do a scope on and what questions you have and how I can best serve you, because this is about community and this is about me sharing tips and hopefully encouraging and serving you well. So do that. Today's was a suggestion from a viewer. She wrote in and asked if I could talk about paper. So that's where today's came from. Eastern time? No, it's 7:30 a.m. Central time because I'm in Central time. So that would be 8:30 Eastern time. So, okay. And then next week's book. We've been doing Simply Tuesday this week. Next week, we are going to do a new book because I'm having so much fun doing this. So, we're going to do Nourished. And this was one of those that a lot of you were interested in when I gave you examples, or I gave you 3 to choose from. This was one that you were very interested in. This is a search for health, happiness, and a full night's sleep. I don't know the authors. I don't know much about this book. I just happened to, I don't know if it got sent to me or I'm not even really sure. It's been on my shelf for a while. I read the reviews on Amazon and they were a little bit, they were a little bit mixed, so I'm not sure what I'm going to think about it, but I thought that it would be great. I need the encouragement to work on health and work on a full night's sleep. And so I just thought, so we'll do Nourished, and that's going to start on Monday. So I'm giving you a little bit more time if you want to pick up a copy of this book or try to get one from your library. It is by Becky Johnson and Rachel Randolph. And from what I understand, that's a mother-daughter author team. So we'll see what it's like next week. All right, so Simply Tuesday, I didn't get my post up yet because I went to bed last night, but I have it almost written and I'll get that up this morning. So this is from section 3 and it's Simply Tuesday by Emily Freeman. And we read section 3 yesterday, and these quotes on friendship really stuck out to me. It says, she was talking about a time when she was really feeling lonely, and she said, it was during this time that I realized I had 2 choices. I could either continue as I was, waiting for people to show up and surround me, or I could decide to move toward people. So many people write in and they'll say, I want to have good friendships. I don't know how, and it feels like no one wants to be my friend, or I can't find any friends, or I don't have time. And I loved how she said I could have 2 choices. I could continue as I was, waiting for people to show up and surround me, or I could decide to move toward people myself. So don't look for greener pastures and think, if I was just in a different mom's group, if I was just, hi Emily, yay, so fun to see you on here. I'm loving your book. If I would just go to a different church, if I would just move, then I'd be able to find those friendships. Start cultivating the ground that you are already on before you look to greener, other pastures and think that they're greener, because there's always some green grass right where you are. You just have to cultivate it. The other quote that I loved was, the thing about competition is that there is no time to connect with your competitors. You don't face them, you try to beat them. You're happiest when your back is to them, because that means you're winning. It is so important, especially online, in the online world. I think there's such a tendency for there to be competition instead of community. And it's a sad thing. And I have lost friendships that I thought were friendships over this, because people saw something that I achieved something or got something, or some opportunity was given to me, and people just couldn't deal with that. And so the friendship was lost because of that. And I know that I've struggled sometimes. I will see another blogger or online entrepreneur and I'll think, why are they getting that opportunity? And I know this is terrible, but I'm just being honest. Why are they getting that opportunity when, I've been blogging for 10 years and I've never gotten anything like that, and they've only been online for 2 years. And I really, really, really have had to check my spirit and say, do I want other people to succeed? And if so, how can I be a cheerleader? If there's a little part of me that is upset or bothered or just has that little twinge when someone else gets something really exciting, that's a problem, and it's my problem. It's not their problem, it's my problem, and I need to work on fostering community and being a cheerleader instead of being a competitor, because we are a community. And when we promote other people, when we want other people to succeed, when we are for other people, there's so much joy that comes from that. There's so much blessing that comes from us promoting other people. And then I loved this quote. The truth is, people need our witness. They don't need for us to impress them with how spiritual we are. They need to know they aren't alone. And I would fill in also with how spiritual. It could also be how organized we are, or how put together we are, or how smart we are. You could fill in the blank with a lot of different things there. They don't need for us to impress them with how whatever we are. They need to know they aren't alone. That is the greatest gift that you can give to someone else, is to be with them. For them to know that they are not alone. Stop trying to impress people and go sit with them and be with them and love on them and just sit there with them in their mess, in their struggles, in their heartache. Be there with them, because that's the greatest gift that you can give to them. So that's what I have for you today. We will be reading section 4 today, and I will be putting up section 3 this morning and section 4, my thoughts on it tonight. And don't forget that next week we'll be going through the Nourished book. So if you want to grab a copy of that to have next week, we'd love for you to join us. So I hope you have a wonderful day. I'm off to Indianapolis, and I will scope tomorrow around 7:30 a.m. from my hotel in Indy, hopefully. And have a great day. Remember to be with other people. Bless other people. Go sit with them in their struggles, encourage them and bless them, and give them the gift of your presence. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.